All right, the second half has officially kicked off. It's time to get busy, make some moves that'll help your team down the stretch for the fantasy baseball playoffs. That's right, we gotta think long term here. Don't just look for the here now. I'm not just talking about short-term streamers. Let's look at some players that could be mainstays in your lineup. I'm gonna give you a couple of pitchers coming back from injury that you might not be aware are back, and then second call on a closer that you might not even know, but he's looking like one of the better ninth inning arms in the game right now. But first, let's get to the hitters. We're going to stay for a while in Oakland. They just called up a couple of big name prospects, starting with Tyler Soderstrom. Now, you want to know this name because he is a catcher, although he's probably one of those guys that's not going to play very much behind the plate in the big leagues. For that reason, and also because physically, he basically is the same as Henry Davis of Pittsburgh, who I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. He's just a left-handed version of Davis, very similar in a lot of ways. Guys who are hit first, power hitters, and not really known for their defense. And it doesn't matter because even though they are catchers, they might not catch much, if at all, at the major league level. And you don't care because in fantasy, they still qualify as a catcher. Henry Davis has been playing right field pretty much every day, and he hits leadoff a lot of times. Now, Soderstrom won't do that, and he is in Oakland, which is not a great thing because that's not the best team offensively, but it's okay because he's got a clear path to at-bats. The fact that Shea Langoliers is there, and he is a pretty good defender, and he's been doing pretty well offensively, means Soderstrom will have to hit to stay, and he's probably going to play some first base. That just gives him more eligibility. He'll also DH at times. I wouldn't worry too much, though, about playing time because you know the A's are most likely going to be selling off as many pieces as they can before the deadline, and I'll get to that in a second. But Soderstrom, as long as he can handle major league pitching, will be there for the rest of the season. Look, this is a guy who hit 20 home runs in AAA so far this season. He's got the power. If you're still streaming for some reason, you're looking for a guy to settle down, just want a little extra power boost, yeah, this is a time to pick up Soderstrom. And then that other A's prospect I was hinting at, Zach Geloff, who's a second baseman. Now, he's not quite a high-end prospect. He's number 5 technically in the A system, which, you know, right now isn't the deepest because they have been calling up a lot of their players. He has been hitting pretty well, though, also at the AAA level, hit .304 with 12 home runs and had stolen 20 bases at the minor league level. This guy can make an impact. Already in his first game, he hit an RBI double. Again, the opportunity is there. Not necessarily a guy who's going to be a star at the major league level, but you know what? It's pretty hard to find guys like that off the waiver wire these days. This guy can help you in the middle infield spot. You never know how these prospects will turn out. A lot of times scouts don't see a guy's true ceiling. Sometimes players achieve better when they get called up. And second base isn't really the deepest position these days, so you need help there, look for Geloff. And we're staying in Oakland. I know it's hard to believe, but look, Brent Rooker is somebody you haven't heard from in a while. I remember early in the season, he was on fire. There was a point where I think it was late April, early May, something like that. He was like the best hitter in the majors. Okay, so he's slowed down since then, but his numbers overall in the season, not too bad. You know, he still has a barrel rate in the top 10 percentile of the major leagues at like 14.5%. Got 16 home runs, 44 RBIs on the season. That'll do. And he is starting to pick up the pace again lately after kind of slowing down. He's hitting .296 in the month of July with 3 home runs. But the main reason I want to point out Rooker right now is the fact that that trade deadline isn't too far off. You know Oakland is going to sell whatever they can. Not just talking about the team itself, I mean their players. They're nowhere close to being competitive. Rooker is a perfect example of a veteran bat that they could move to a team that is a contender or trying to stay in contention. And him going from Oakland to literally any other team will be a boost in offensive context, not only be a better lineup, but also a better park. This is going to be only better for Rooker if he does get moved. So he's not necessarily available everywhere, but this is maybe a good buy low opportunity. If somebody has him, they don't feel like he's, you know, somebody who is a super valuable piece, but he is actually still out there in a lot of leagues on waivers. All right, finally out of Oakland, but not too far away from the Bay down to LA. Let's look at Mickey Moniak. Phillies fans, you might want to cover your ears. You already know this, but Moniak, former number 1 overall pick for the Phillies, has finally come into his own for the Angels. If there's any good news for the Angels this year, besides the fact that Shohei Ohtani, who they now might trade, is the best player on the planet, it's the fact that Moniak has kind of started to come alive. Hey, Trout is out, Adele's on the IL, but Moniak is a maniac. Look, he's been hitting great all season, batting .319 right now, got 10 home runs and 29 RBIs and only 135 at bats. He's been showing that he can handle an everyday job. And again, with all those injuries in the outfield and the Angels pretty much, again, not looking like contenders, he should stick for the long term. And so maybe not just in a strong side platoon, maybe he'll just be in there every day from now on. But just the way he's hitting, it is worth it. Pick him up. It's hard to believe he's still out there in almost 2/3 of Yahoo leagues right now. I mean, there's nothing else to wait for here at this point. And then if you're looking to stash and get ahead of the game before that trade deadline, an interesting name is Tyler O'Neill from the St. Louis Cardinals. A lot of you might remember O'Neill from 2 years ago, that 2021 season. He was basically a fantasy MVP for a lot of people because he was picked up off of waivers, hardly even drafted, and broke out. Huge season with 34 home runs and 15 stolen bases, along with pretty good average. I mean, he was looking like a legit 5-category stud. And then last year, very disappointing. This year, he's hardly played. He's rehabbing from a back strain. He's basically been on the IL most of the season, but even before that, to start out, was not doing well, hitting .228 with just 2 home runs. And that was in his first 99 plate appearances. Well, it's been confirmed the Cardinals are going to be sellers after a kind of weird and massively disappointing season for St. Louis. It looks like they're going to be trading off some pieces. They've had a crowded outfield for a while, but it's pretty obvious they're not going to move Jordan Walker. Dylan Carlson is also far younger. Tyler O'Neill makes all the sense in the world. He's older, but at 28, still close to his prime. We know the level of talent he does possess, so there's probably a team that's going to take a chance on him. Maybe a team that needs a 4th outfielder. But, even though that doesn't sound massively appealing for fantasy, if he lands in the right spot, injuries happen. If he gets hot, he becomes an everyday outfielder. It's worth taking a chance because we know what he's capable of, and maybe just being healthy and being in a different situation might rejuvenate him. All right, time to get to the pitchers, but first, I want to remind you that if you're back into the swing of things and playing DFS for fantasy baseball, you should definitely check out Rival Fantasy. Join using Endgame MLB as a code. You get a deposit match up to $200, and this isn't just your regular build a lineup and go. You can try Fantasy Bingo, which gives you a chance to win multiple ways and build a lineup without having those salary cap restraints. Quick, easy to play, and easy to win. Challenges, player versus player. Check it out right now. Download the app, Rival Fantasy. It'll be worth it. Now, just before the break on the 4th of July, Tariq Skubal from the Detroit Tigers was activated off the 60-day injured list, and he's made 2 starts since then. Both starts, very short, but very good. 4 innings and 4 innings, no runs allowed each time, and he struck out more than a batter per inning. Obviously, they're going to slow play him back in the rotation. Now they just have the All-Star break, and they're going to get a little deeper into the season. You're going to see him stretch out 5 innings, maybe 6 innings pretty soon, enough to get you a quality start, a win here and there. I think Skubal is definitely worth picking up now because he is a guy who has all the talent in the world. We know this. And if he's going to stay healthy the rest of the season, you're going to want him on your roster. The guy has good stuff. And it's been a little longer, but 4 starts since returning from the injured list now for Seth Lugo, who is in San Diego. In those 4 starts, he's got a 2.05 ERA, and he struck out a batter per inning. Lugo, always a guy who kind of goes under the radar because he bounces between long relief and the rotation. A lot of people don't even realize he was in San Diego, and of course, missing time didn't help. One thing Lugo does the best is what he doesn't do, and that's walk batters. Right now, he's got a walk rate of 4.9%, among the best in the majors. This isn't the first time he's been among the league leaders in that category. I always try to target guys who can command the zone. You want strikeouts, sure, too. He's not a high strikeout guy, but he has been in the past. Back in the 2019 season, he had a strikeout rate of 33%. It's dropped since then, but still, he can get you a K per inning just about. And if those ratios are that good, yeah, you should definitely have interest in him, and he's still freely available in a lot of leagues. Now, I know this pitcher is definitely going to be available in a lot of leagues. A lot of people gave up on him, especially because he got demoted to the minors. But here comes Logan Allen back up to Cleveland because, sadly, Shane Bieber has hit the IL. Now, Allen was demoted because a couple of starts he got hit hard, and it wasn't going deep into games because his command was getting a little bit shaky. But so many times we see with these young pitchers, they get sent down, and as soon as they're back up, they figure things out. They have it under control, right? This was his first run as a major league starter. So I think it's worth taking a shot, and I personally am, because I picked him up in a couple leagues now that he is back. Cleveland knows how to develop young pitchers. I think I'm going to give him a shot. Look, his numbers weren't that bad. He's got a 3.47 ERA, and he's striking out a batter per inning. The whip is a little high, again, allowing a little bit too much contact, especially a hard hit rate of 40%. But I think he could figure it out. So while I'm not rushing to put him in my starting lineup right now, I'm going to put him on my bench and see what happens. And then, right before and especially after the trade deadline, we're going to see a whole lot of changes in bullpens, new closers, guys who you were counting on for saves who will no longer be closers because they're backing up somebody else for a contender. Well, one guy I think I feel pretty solid about keeping his job, maybe for the rest of the season, is Justin Lawrence. I pointed him out a couple of weeks ago on the waiver wire pickup where I had a few closers that I thought were worthy of adding. He was among them. Look, he's just gotten better as the season goes on. Right now, he's among the best, 89th percentile in expected batting average, 93rd percentile in expected slugging, and he does not give up hard hits and barrels. Got 5 saves so far for Colorado, and that pretty much should stick because he's been by far their best, most dependable option in the late innings. Pierce Johnson just didn't have what it took to be a closer, and Daniel Bard, who knows what's going to go on with him. Now, there is a possibility that Lawrence does get moved to a team and does what I just said, that he isn't the closer anymore, but I think they're going to hold on to him, at the very least, get him for short-term save help, and hope that he sticks with a job for the rest of the season. Before we put the first half completely in the rearview mirror, I broke down the true all-star team that is the Fantasy Baseball All-Stars, in my opinion. We can check out what I had to say.